Welcome to the Burnout Recovery Podcast, a guiding resource dedicated to healthcare professionals on their journey to overcoming burnout. Spearheaded by Dr. Jo Braid, a certified professional coach and rehabilitation physician.
Welcome back to the Burnout Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jo Braid, and if you're a healthcare professional or a business owner or maybe an entrepreneur who's ever felt like you don't deserve your position or that somehow you're fooling everyone around you, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm diving deep into imposter syndrome, a syndrome that's been around since 1978 and had a lot more research around it over the last 10 years or so. It's really that persistent voice telling you that you're not qualified enough, you're not experienced enough, or smart enough for where you are. And here's the thing, if you're feeling this way, you are in incredibly good company. Let me start with a confession. After 20 years as a doctor, hundreds of hours coaching healthcare professionals, and hosting this top 5% podcast, I still sometimes hear that little voice whispering, "Who do you think you are?" One time, not so long ago, when I was invited to speak at a major healthcare conference, my first thought was not excitement, it was panic. They'll realize I don't know what I'm talking about. There are so many more qualified people that they could have chosen. Does this sound familiar to you? So here's what I want you to know. You are not alone. Michelle Obama, after being First Lady and achieving incredible success, said, "I still have a little imposter syndrome. It doesn't go away. That feeling that you shouldn't take me that seriously. What do I know?" And the wonderful Maya Angelou, after writing 11 books, said, "Each time I think, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out." So here's why imposter syndrome can really hit healthcare professionals particularly hard. We know it is more common in females in healthcare and particularly more junior or in trainee stages, I guess, of their healthcare journey. We see that the data is higher for the rates of imposter syndrome there, with on average 2 out of 3 people expressing some imposter syndrome, and the numbers there thought to be higher in healthcare. You know, we have really big decisions that we have to make on the regular. We're constantly learning new treatments. There's a lot to keep up with, and technologies too. We really work in still very hierarchical systems that can make us feel small. And we're often, if not always, surrounded by brilliant colleagues. And so that's your check-in on, are you comparing yourself with somebody else, or can you use the tools that I'm about to share in this podcast here to realize how brilliant you are and what value you bring to your workplace? And the cost of this inner critic, I've talked about this concept, inner critic versus inner coach before, it's really huge. It can contribute to burnout, prevent us stepping into leadership roles, and ultimately impact the care we can provide for our patients. We know that people who are more prone to imposter syndrome feel more prone to failure. That little part of perfectionism is rearing up there, which can often stop us from getting started. People may become less productive, and we see that in burnout when people are producing less or getting through tasks more slowly than they used to. And it's also characterized by that insecurity and procrastination. So that often happens. And, imagine you're going into a new job, a new role, and I would say I've definitely noticed imposter syndrome showing up in that anticipatory anxiety before starting a new role, doubting myself if I can do that. So how can we transform that inner critic into an inner coach? First, I think it's great to recognize the stories you're telling yourself. Your brain might be saying, "I got lucky," or "I'm fooling everyone," or "I don't belong here." But what if we rewrote those stories? So instead of "I don't know enough," how about "I'm learning and growing"? And gee, isn't a career in health often a long journey of learning? That's what I found. Instead of "I got lucky," try "I prepared and I seized the opportunity." You saw it there in front of you. You went for it and you are the qualified one for it. Instead of I don't belong, try I bring unique value. And that is it. Like in healthcare, none of us are identical. We may have gone through similar training programs and that, but we each bring really unique value to the healthcare system. So here's a powerful exercise that I like to use with my coaching clients, and one I also had to do myself when that conference invitation triggered my imposter syndrome. Let's call it the evidence file. Right now, I'd love you to pause and think of 3 professional accomplishments you're proud of. They don't have to be huge, life-changing moments. They can be 3 things that you've done recently that you are proud of. You know you've done them well. Maybe it involved calming down somebody who was very anxious, often pre-discharge. I find patients can be very anxious. Not always, but sometimes you calmed that anxious, or maybe recently you calmed that anxious patient. Maybe you mentored somebody else in your team. And maybe you handled a family crisis with compassion. I mean, there are multiple different scenarios that may relate to you in your workplace. And you can note, oh, yes, I did see that I handled that really well, or that went better because I brought this skill into the workplace. And these are really growing your evidence that contradicts that imposter voice that you might have in your head. For myself, when I did this exercise before that conference, I could remember the hundreds of healthcare professionals who've told me my coaching changed their careers. I remember the podcast reviews, thank you so much, saying these episodes have helped people recover from burnout, and they have a sense of one-on-one coaching with the voice that I use and the, sort of unique approach that I have in this podcast. And I can also really be aware of my own journey from burnout to thriving that gives me really unique insights to share. So then my imposter voice got quieter. So here are 3 daily practices to build your inner strength. Number 1, why do you keep a weekly competence inventory? For example, every Friday or maybe Saturday morning, spend 5 minutes listing 3 things you handled well during the week. There's so much that happens in the week, and I really invite you to have this reflective, growing your self-awareness moment during the week. Include both clinical skills and interpersonal moments. And you could always keep this list in your phone for when the imposter voice gets loud. Secondly, the growth mindset shift. So this is when we're changing up the phrases that we often notice. Replace I don't know how with I don't know how yet. That gives you that permission to learn and grow and realize that you can learn how to do something. Replace I'm not good at this with I'm learning this. And these simple word changes rewire your brain for growth, curiosity, expansiveness instead of judgment. And number 3, the mentor's perspective, because so often in healthcare, we're one step ahead of somebody else that we're working with. And so we can share that sort of mentoring, teaching aspect in the everyday that we have. When that self-doubt creeps in, ask yourself, what would I tell a junior colleague in my exact position? Then give yourself that same compassion and that wisdom that you have. So here's what I want you to remember. You already have everything you need to step into bigger opportunities. Your experience, even if it feels insufficient to you, is incredibly valuable to someone else. And healthcare really needs leaders who understand the challenges from the inside, and that's you. So the conference that I was worried about, it went brilliantly. Not because I suddenly became more qualified, but because I chose to listen to my inner coach instead of my inner critic. Your new story isn't I'm an imposter pretending to be a healthcare professional, an entrepreneur, a professional in a different realm. Your new story is I am a professional with unique gifts to offer. Starting today, when that imposter voice whispers, respond with your coach voice. Apply for that role you've been avoiding. Volunteer for that project. Share that idea that you've been holding back. I hope you found this episode helpful, and if you have, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message through my website at drjobraid.com, and while you're there, you're welcome to grab my free guide From Dread to Delight, which is packed with boundary setting strategies that complement everything we've talked about today. If you're ready to dive deeper into transforming your inner story, consider booking a Power Hour coaching session with me. Sometimes we need that personalized support to really shift from surviving to thriving. Remember, small shifts can transform your career. You've got this. And until next time, this is Dr. Jo Braid, reminding you that recovery from burnout and from imposter syndrome is 100% possible. Thanks for listening to this episode. Schedule a 60-minute Power Hour with me and leave with relief, decisions made, and clear next steps. Or send me an email for a speaking inquiry. All information is available at drjobraid.com with links in the show notes.